Hey guys, Jen here. So sorry that I'm running really late today. I was supposed to be doing this at 1, and this is why I didn't want to come up with a time for these because honestly, I haven't been feeling all that good the last few days, and so I've kind of been in and out of having to lay down and sleep for a while, and so I just don't really know when I'm going to be up feeling better. So I'm going to do this right now while I'm still feeling okay, and hopefully just get through it. So welcome to the live stream. I'm doing a series this week on how to sell more books. So, that's obviously if you've written books, if you've got a book out there already, then you know that the most important thing to do after you actually write the book and get it out there is sell more copies. And so I'm going to give you a whole bunch of different tasks and activities this week. They're going to help you to actually sell more books. So today I'm going to talk you through 10 book marketing activities that you can do in 10 minutes. So one of the things that I hear a lot from writers and from authors is that they don't have a lot of time. So, it's like, well, I don't have a lot of time to market my books. I don't have a lot of time available. And so I just wanted to give you a list of potential things you could do that only take about 10 minutes. So you're not going to have to take a ton of time out of your day. You could potentially do one of these a day for a whole month and really get yourself to a place where you've got momentum built and you can start selling more books and all of that. So just to sort of dive in, and again, these are just little bite-sized tasks. They're just things that you can do, and they build on each other a little at a time. So the first thing is, and I'm going to break this down into 3 separate steps, but the biggest one would be updating your Amazon information. So this is something I think we finish a book, we write it, we put it out there, and then we think we're done. And it's like, okay, well, the book's out there, it's on Amazon. Well, okay, fine. But there's more to it, because sometimes the first description, the first title, the first keywords that you use aren't enough. So sometimes they're not the right ones. They're not actually helping people find your book. So something to be thinking about is that Amazon is really a search engine for books. So think of it like Google, but for books. And so if it's not properly keyworded, if you don't have a title that actually tells us what the book's about, or if you don't have a description that's enough to actually entice somebody to be interested, then they're not going to buy the book. And so you have, as the author, your job is to make sure that it's optimized as possible so that that doesn't happen, so that people actually will buy the book so they can find it and all of that. So the first 10-minute activity is that you can update your Amazon description. So just because you wrote a description before doesn't make it the best one. Sometimes you have to tweak it. Sometimes you have to mess with it a little bit and add different things. And this will actually help you to come up with a better description so that people know what they're getting when they buy your book. So I like to write a description, kind of get it out there, and then from there, actually looking at it as things go. So I'll put it out there and then I'll say, okay, how are the sales going? And look at it and, okay, well, maybe I could do better, and look at some other descriptions. So look at books that are similar to yours. How are they being described? What are they talking about? Are they talking about the content? Are they talking about the actual results or the outcome that you're going to get from reading it? What is it that they're talking about? The other thing is you can look online for advice and guidance on how to write better copy. So a lot of the times we might be, fiction writers, we might be really creative and really good at writing, nonfiction, fiction, but that doesn't make us copywriters. And so sometimes you have to actually either get help or find somebody else who can write really good copy and get them to do it for you. Or again, you can learn how to write copy. So this might take you more than 10 minutes at that point, but the idea is if you can learn how to write copy, then you can actually write your description in a way that entices somebody to want to actually buy the book. And so again, just don't settle on the first description that you put out there. So put one out there, yes, because don't let that stop you. So don't get stuck in, well, the description isn't right or it's not perfect. That's okay. Put it out there, because honestly, with Amazon and any other digital site, you can make updates very quickly. So if you come up with a new description or if you come up with a new keyword or whatever, you can change it very quickly and optimize your, profile on your page. So again, this is very minor, but it's actually a big deal, because when people get to that Amazon page for your book, that's what sells them. It's the description, it's the title, it's, what they think they're going to get out of this by, buying the book. So it's really important to make sure all that's optimized. So your first task is to actually update your description. Your second task is to update your keywords. So this is something that most authors totally look over because we don't understand the importance of the keywords. But really, as I've been learning this over the last few years, keywords are insanely important. So, when you set your book up on Amazon or when you set it up on Kindle or whatever, there is a line on the setup that says up to seven keywords. So write in up to 7 keywords. Now, most of the time when you get to that point, what do? You just write out, here, let me think of some, 7 different phrases or words that are related to my book or that I think people, would be searching for. problem with that is you may not be accurately guessing which words people are actually searching for. And so you have to find ways to actually find the right keywords, because what happens is if someone goes to Amazon to search for a book or for a topic, they put in something. Maybe it's a word, maybe it's a phrase, and from there they get a list of results based on that phrase or based on the word. So your book may not fall in there if you don't have the right keywords. But if you know ahead of time, oh, these are the keywords people are searching for books on my topic, then you can actually tweak your keywords so that they match the stuff people are looking for. And then suddenly you're ranking better in Amazon and people are finding your book more. And then, of course, that means they're going to buy more. So there are a couple ways to do this. So one of them is to just like use a tool, like a Google Analytics has like a keyword tool, and you can use that to sort of make some guesses on what people are searching for as far as like words and phrases that relate to your book topic or your genre. Another one, this is a really cool tool. It's a paid one, but it's totally awesome and it's worth the money. It's called KDP Rocket. So basically what it does is it does keyword research for you, and it tells you all the keywords that would be valuable for you to be using with your book. So you can actually put in your topic or put in your book, maybe like a couple of information about the book, a couple of words or phrases. And then what happens is that the KDP Rocket then shows you, okay, here are some other keywords that you should be thinking about. So I recently purchased this program and I think it's amazing. It's totally amazing. But I actually learned some new keywords that would be better for a book that I have out there that's actually selling all right. So the book is already selling pretty good, but with these new keywords, it's going to sell even better because now it will rank when people start searching those keywords. And so that's what's important, is really connecting the keywords people are looking for with the book that you have. So another way to look for keywords, and this is, I don't know, it works sometimes, it doesn't always work, but basically you go to Amazon and try to use an incognito browser if you can. So what that means is like Chrome has this. I think a couple of the other ones do too. But basically you just go incognito. So it's not tracking who you are. It's a private browser. And the reason you do this is because Amazon has a tracking mechanism to know if it's you searching for stuff on Amazon. And so it'll skew your results based on the fact that it's you. And so you don't want that. You want an incognito browser so that you can actually see the results as they would be to a person who isn't you. And so by using the incognito browser, you can go to Amazon and then just start typing in keywords. So like start with, maybe one word related to your book. So for example, if I was talking about my book, The 15-Minute Writer, I might type in the words 15 minutes and then just wait and see what comes up, because Amazon has, like Google, a auto-populate. So basically what will happen is Amazon will auto-populate the words in the search bar based on things other people have already been searching for, which if you've used Google, this happens a lot too. It's to try to help you find the best results. So you type in 15 minutes and all of a sudden it drops down a list of other things people have searched for with the term 15 minutes. And so you can start to see, okay, does any of that relate to your book? Is that anything, that you think, oh, people who would want to read my book would be searching for this? And if it is, then that could be a really good keyword phrase for you to use to start selling more books. Because again, if people can't find your books, you can't sell them. And that's really the whole point of the keyword mechanism. Updating a keyword takes under 10 minutes. I mean, it might take you like 10 minutes to research it, and then another time you do 10 minutes of actually updating them on your Amazon profile. But the point is, it's a 10-minute activity that could massively change your sales. The third one that relates to your Amazon is changing either your book picture or the title. So basically, when you do a book cover for a book, it might not be the best one. And this is hard, I know, because a lot of the times we are very attached to our book covers. We think, oh, this is so great, I love it, the picture is so perfect. But that doesn't mean that it resonates with your ideal reader. So just because you love it and because you think it's great, and just because you love the title and think the title is amazing, doesn't mean your ideal reader is going to feel the same way. And what's really important isn't what you think at this point, it's what your ideal reader thinks. Because if they don't think the title stands out to them, if the cover doesn't stand out to them, they're not going to click on it when they see it in the list on Amazon. They're not going to click on it to see, oh, is this something I would be interested in? And if you don't get them to the book page, you're not going to get them to click the buy button, right? So it's really important to make sure that you optimize everything that you possibly can, whether it's your description, your keywords, or your book cover. So sometimes you have to try a different book cover. Sometimes you have to try several to find the right one that really pops for your ideal reader, that makes them go, I have to read that, or at least they have to check it out. So they see the picture and automatically they click on it because they want to go see, is this a book I would be interested in? And so, and this, again, this was stuff that I wasn't even thinking about. I recently, 6 months ago hired a Kindle coach, and he has walked me through so much of this stuff that's been just insanely eye-opening as far as like, just because you got the book out there doesn't mean it's done. Like, there's still more that you can do. And these are just minor tweaks that really aren't going to take that much time, but could change everything when it comes to finding, people finding your book. So keep that in mind. These are 10-minute tweaks, but simple things you could do that may actually optimize your book for more sales. And that's the whole point, right? Is you're trying to make more sales. So if you can change the title slightly, that makes it better so that people are more willing to click on it. Or if you make the picture pop more so that people actually want to read the description to find out if this is something they'd be interested in, that's the whole point. Because especially online, we don't have that, I can go to my bookshelf right here and, grab a book off the thing and see if it's something I would want to be interested in. We don't have that. So you have to go by the picture and the title and then the description if you actually, click into the picture and the title. So that's the starting point. And when someone's searching for something on Amazon, they're looking at a list of books. If it doesn't entice them, if yours doesn't stand out, they're just going to click on someone else's and buy that one instead. So really keep that in mind. And this goes for fiction too, because again, you want to stand out in your genre. Well, keywords still matter. Keywords are a huge way that people find books. And the crazy part is the simplest tweak in a keyword could change everything. So whether, it's, instead of using the word magical, you use the word magic. And even though it's such a simple thing, well, if someone in your readership is searching the word magic when they're looking for a novel to read, that's going to come up. Whereas if they're not typing in the word magical, because that's just not something they think about, then by having that as a keyword, that's actually taking away from the fact of them seeing your book. So the keyword is really important, and it's really important to have, the title and the image that's going to actually entice them to click through. And that's the whole point. So yes, you should love your title and you should love your book cover, but you also need to be thinking about who is this person who's going to be looking for this on Amazon, and how is this image and title going to compete with all the other listings that come up when someone searches. So those are your first 3 10-minute activities. Now, the fourth one is to create a teaser for social media. So this could be something as simple as making like a cover promo, so making a cover picture and writing some text on it. It could be pulling like a paragraph or two out of the story and putting it into a, just like a little, either like a picture quote, or you could even take a section of the story and put it like as part of the post on social media, and then entice people to, if you like this chapter, or if you like this, section, go check out the book here. So again, this is something really simple, but if someone doesn't know what's in a book, you have to entice them. And so the way to do that is with teasers. So think of like a book trailer, or a movie trailer. So in order to get you to want to watch the movie or to see the story, you have to watch the trailer and go, oh, this looks interesting. And so the trailer makers and the people who make trailers are going to be working really hard to highlight the most important parts of the story, or the stuff that they think you're going to think is the most enticing, so that you want to go see the movie. So same thing here. Think about from your story and looking at it from a, higher perspective of looking at the whole thing. What are 2 or 3 passages in the story where a reader would see that and be like, I have to see what happens next. I have to read what happens next. Pull that section out and use it as a teaser on social media. So that's a way to get people looking at something intriguing about your story. And then of course, if they're interested, they're going to keep going. So if you pull out something that's actually going to entice them, that makes them say, well, what happens next? They're going to go buy the book. So that's the whole thing, is looking for the passages in your book or in your story that you could use to actually entice them and to make a teaser. So that's number 4. And that could take 10 minutes. I mean, again, these are 10-minute bits of activity. So if it's an activity that takes multiple 10 minutes, then just do one session in 10 minutes. Okay, you're going to read through your story and pull out some sections. And then the next 10 minutes you're going to actually create some promos with those teasers. And then the next 10 minutes, you're going to post them on social media. So it's a process, but if you just break it down into these 10-minute little bites of activity, it can really build up into momentum, which will sell more books for you. Okay, so number 5 is to shoot a video of yourself reading a chapter or a section of your book or your story. So now some writers are averse to video, because I know we're used to being behind the scenes. We don't want people to see us. And it took me a long time to get used to being on video, and especially to be used to being on video live like I am right now. But honestly, the people who want to read your stuff, who are interested in what you're doing, they're not going to care if you aren't perfect on video. Nobody's perfect. And honestly, people would rather see that. So just shoot a video of yourself reading a chapter. Don't worry about if you mess up a little, or if you didn't read it properly, or whatever. That's not the point. The point is just to do that, because by reading a chapter or a section of it, you're just giving people some introduction into what the story is or what the book's about. And that's just going to entice them to know whether or not this is of interest to them. So you can post these videos on social media. You could send them out to your email list if you have one. You could put it on YouTube. I mean, that's a great place for video, obviously, but don't discount sites like Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. I mean, you couldn't do a whole chapter, but you could do, a little blip of something. Periscope, if you don't mind live video. It's really up to you. So you could even have like a live reading session once a week where you read a section of a chapter and you build up. So maybe you read everybody up to the first plot point of your story, and you do this over let's say like 3 or 4 videos, and you read up to that in the story. And then you say, hey guys, if you want to know what happens next, go buy the book. So automatically they're in the story now. You've read them up to the first plot point, and now they want to know what happens next. So they're going to go and they're going to buy the book and they're going to go read it. So that's a really easy way to just entice people, and to not only that, but introduce them to yourself. Because I think a lot of the times the reason that people are not willing to buy a book from an author they don't know is because they don't know them. That's it. It's just because they don't know them. So they're going to go for a more household name because they just know them. So if you do a video, they get to know who you are as an author, and they can say, oh, I like her. She seems fun, or she seems cool, or whatever. They connect with you because they just can see you and they can hear you talking. So automatically there's that connection built. And so from there, they're much more interested in checking out the book because they feel like they know you. So someone who comes to my live streams a lot may automatically want to buy my books just because they know me and they see the content that I put out, on my live streams and my videos. So they must think, well, if, her videos are so good and the information that she gives is so good, her books must be good too. So it sort of is like a teaser for my books without even being a teaser for my books. So I'm not telling you about my books really, but I'm talking about a topic that you care about. And then from there, if you're interested in me and the work that I do, you're going to go check out my books. So don't discount video and the ways that you can use it to really build a readership and start to sell more books. I'm a huge fan of video now. I didn't used to be because, like I said, I was a little bit shy, but I just got to a point where I realized that it's no big deal. It doesn't matter. Like, you don't have to be perfect. People actually prefer you not being perfect. Like, they actually prefer you being human. And just, so again, this video was supposed to happen at 1. It's happening almost 30 minutes later because I had a really rough morning, and I've just been sick for a few days. So it's been kind of, it's been hard for me to just even get up some days. And so for me, it's been like, okay, I'm going to still do the video and I'm going to still do it no matter what. But again, that's something that I know, like, hey, yeah, maybe people will be upset with me that I wasn't on time when I told them I was going to be there at 1. But again, I'm human, and rather than running away and being like, I'm not going to do the video at all, I just did it. I just showed up and did it anyway, because you know what? It's here and people can come back and check it out anytime. But the point is, I'm just doing me. And so this is representing myself the best that I can. It's me being as, raw as I possibly can be, because that's it. I'm human and nobody's perfect. So don't ever stress yourself out about videos and worrying that, oh, you have to be perfect. You have to look perfect. I mean, look at this. My hair is like a mess today, and I'm wearing like a hoodie, and I haven't put on any makeup. Normally, I wouldn't want to do a live stream like that. However, I'm more about the result, which is helping you sell more books and just getting you to know me and the work that I do, that I have to ignore all that. And so again, that's really, and it takes some time to build up to this point where you feel comfortable just being you no matter what. But you'll get there. And if you do it more and more, you'll start to build a readership because people know who you are. And when they know who you are, they're much more willing to buy your books than if they just see you listed on a, Amazon thing and they don't know who you are. So by doing a video, maybe reading your book chapter or reading a section or just talking about a topic related to your book. So for example, I could do a video about how to be a 15-minute writer, and I could give you some tips on how to be a 15-minute writer. And then I could say, hey, go check out my book if you want to learn more. So it's a really simple thing, but because you're doing video, people are getting to hear your voice and they're getting to see you as a person, moving and functioning, so they know you're real and you're not just some name, that's out there, but we don't know who you are. So it helps them get to know you, and when they get to know you, they're more likely to buy a book from you. So that's number 5. And again, video does not have to take long. So you could do a short video, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. It doesn't have to be long. Just something really quick, but introduce them to you, introduce them to, your book, or read something, teach them about something, and just really engage with your audience, because that's how you build a following, is by creating content that causes people to want to be in your community and want to follow you and want to check out your stuff. Okay, so number 6 is to make a connection with a reader or with an author in your genre. So this is something really simple. Again, it takes 10 minutes, but honestly, you could go on Twitter and you could search for search for like people who've hashtagged things related to your book. So for example, I could go to Twitter and I could look for people who've hashtagged writer's block. And I could, from there, find one or two people to reach out to and just say, hey, I saw that you had a tag about writer's block, and I would love to, give you some tips on writer's block. So what's your biggest challenge right now? Or, how is the writer's block affecting you? Can you tell me more about it? And just engaging with them in a conversation, because by doing that, you're actually doing a lot more than you realize. So that doesn't feel like book marketing probably, and you're probably like, well, why would I want to just like search people randomly and then reach out to them? But the whole point is, if I'm trying to sell a book about how to overcome writer's block and I reach out to people who say they have writer's block and I just share some information, maybe link them to an article or, tell them a tip or something, or just give them like a quick little rundown on 3 things they can do to overcome writer's block. Well, from there, I'm building a connection, and then, oh, by the way, I have this book if you want to check it out. So it's a really simple way to connect directly with a reader, and then, of course, eventually be able to sell a book to them. And this was something, if you listen to my podcast, The Pro Writer Mindset, and if you don't, definitely check it out, iTunes and Stitcher. I interviewed a woman named Rocky Callan, and she talked about a strategy that she used with Twitter, so basically approaching people on Twitter and starting conversations, and she was able to create a best-selling novel campaign with her book because of that. So that was a big part of it, was she reached out individually to people, and again, 10 minutes, set a timer, 10 minutes, go on Twitter or go on Facebook or wherever you like spending time, or where your ideal readers are hanging out, and just take 10 minutes to connect with people and to check in and just see what's going on. Because again, we are not just writing books and that's it. Like, this is the digital age, so people are not just looking for, authors to write books, but they're looking to connect with them in a deeper way. And I always think, especially in the beginning when you're first starting out, or when you're sort of just building your readership, it makes a lot more sense to connect with people like that, because then what happens is later in your career, when you're really big and, to the point where you would never just go on Twitter and start connecting with people randomly, they will have that memory of like, well, that's what you used to do. And you could still do it. I'm not saying you can't do that. It's just a little bit harder when you've got a huge following, because there's so many more messages to answer. But at this point, it's like, if you just engage with everybody that you possibly can, you're just going to build your readership and build your following, because people like people who are real, and they like people who connect with them and who cause them to think about things and cause them to have a conversation. So you're not just one-sided, buy my stuff, but you're actually having a conversation with them about something related to your book topic or your story or whatever. If you're talking about people in your genre, so other authors, never hurts to be connected with people who write similar books to you. So whether that's fiction, whether it's nonfiction, I have a whole group of people I'm connected with now, as of the last few years that I've been working on this, that are writing help books. So basically writing how-to books. I have a whole group of people I'm connected with on that. So now, whenever they do promos, whenever they have new stuff coming out, whenever they want to do a book promo, they contact me and I contact them. And so we've got sort of like this partnership where we share each other's stuff and, we help each other out. And all of that is from building relationships and building connections. And that's a big part of online marketing that I think a lot of writers don't realize, is that you have to build relationships with people. This is true for your readers, and it's true for, potential promotional partners. So whether that's people in your genre or other authors, but again, it's all about, are you connecting and are you taking time? And again, 10 minutes, it doesn't have to take a lot of time. It takes 10 minutes to go on Twitter and hit up 3 authors that you really like and let them know that you like them. That's it. You just say, hey, I think you're great. I love your stuff. That's it. It's a simple connection, but it's a simple way to build a relationship with somebody. And when you have a relationship with somebody, they're much more likely to help you out, to buy your stuff, to promote it for you, etc. And that's really what it's all about. So one of my clients, Zara Quinton, so when she finished her book and she published it in October last year, she set a goal of having 10 people review the book. And so after the book came out, she spent, a little time each day reaching out to people in her genre who read and review books. She ended up getting her 10, and now the reviews are starting to come in. And the whole idea was, she just took a little bit of time each day to just reach out to people, send an email, hit someone up on Twitter. Like, it doesn't have to be fancy and it doesn't have to take a lot of time. 10 minutes could connect you with somebody that could potentially be huge. So she got connected with somebody through her reaching out like that. And then they ended up inviting her to be part of this book promo that they did, where like everybody put the teaser for their book out there, and then people could sign up to get the teaser and get on their email list. And she ended up getting like 600 new email subscribers. So the whole point is, and now she's got 600 plus people that she can market her book to. So it's about building relationships, building connections, and it doesn't have to take a lot of time. Okay, number 7, check out reviews of similar books and look for how to improve. So again, this is more about optimizing the book. So I talked about this in the first 3 activities that I gave you, but optimizing the book is huge because if you can make your book better than the other ones that are out there, you're much more likely to make sales. Now with fiction, obviously, this is a story, so you have to watch, making sure that it's still a story and you still have the principles of storytelling and all of that in there. But look at what other people are saying about books in your genre that you think are similar to your book. So like, let's say you wrote a book about, I don't know, werewolves and vampires. So you're going to go to the Twilight reviews and you're going to look at, okay, what are people, and try to look at the negative reviews more than the positive ones, because the negative ones will tell you what people didn't like. I didn't like the word, her writing wasn't very good, or I didn't like her description, or whatever. This is going to help you because if you can describe better, if you can write better in your story, then you could probably get more sales than a book that has negative reviews in those areas. Now, this is a really good thing for when you're writing nonfiction because you can actually look at, and this is something that I did actually, I didn't look at the reviews, but I could have. I ended up reading the books specifically. But when I was writing my book Pen Name, I had the idea like, okay, I'm going to write a book about pen names. I wanted to cover a little bit of the marketing stuff, but I mostly wanted it to be a book to help people find a pen name because I just felt like that was the thing everybody talked about was, well, I don't know how to come up with a pen name. I know like I want to use one, but how do I find the right name? And so I was like, okay, well, let me see what's out there. So I started looking up books on Amazon. I found 2 other books that were about pen names. I bought both of them. And so I could have read the reviews instead. So that would have been the easier way to do it, I guess. Look at the reviews. What did people say they liked? What did they say they didn't like? Where were the questions that came up, etc.? I just read the other books because I wanted to read them. So I read the other 2 and I wrote down the gaps. So basically, where were there gaps that I felt like I could fill with my book? So maybe I felt like those 2 books really focused a lot on marketing, but it didn't really tell you how to find a pen name. So it's like, okay, great. Now that I've got a name, I can market it with these 2 books. But if I don't have a name yet, what do I do? Because I can't market the name if I don't know what it is yet, right? So that's how I knew I could fill that gap with my book by making it about how to find a pen name. So the first half of the book is about finding a pen name, different ways to do it, different places you could look for to get the name. And then once you've got the name, here's a little bit about how to market it. Here's a little bit about making sure it's the right name and all of that. So it still covered similar things to the other books, but then it bridged this gap that was missing, which is, I think, why that book sells better than a lot of the other pen name books out there. So keep in mind that looking at the reviews, and again, this is a quick 10-minute thing. Go to a book that's similar to yours and look at the reviews. Write down some notes. 10 minutes. Boom. And again, some of these don't seem like direct marketing things, but they actually are activities that will get more books sold for you because you're actually optimizing what you have out there already and presenting it in a way that's going to make it easier for a reader to find it, for a reader to want to read it, and all of that. And that's really the whole point. That's how you sell books. So again, it's just connecting. It's making sure it's optimized and doing all the things that are going to lead you down the path of, I have a book that now can build momentum and get me more sales. So checking out reviews, number 7, a really, really good way to just know, are there gaps you can fill with your book? Are there things you could do better in your book that the other books aren't doing? Because if you can do that, then you're going to have better reviews. And so people will see that and most likely want to buy your book over somebody else's. Okay, activity number 8 is to pitch a guest post or a podcast. So this, again, may be one of those activities you break down into 10-minute chunks. Take 10 minutes to review, go on Amazon or go on, iTunes or something and look at all the podcasts. What podcasts on there are stuff that relates to what you do, either nonfiction topic or if you write fiction. There are a ton of story podcasts out there and fiction writing podcasts and all that stuff. So just do some research, 10 minutes, set a timer, write down a whole list of podcasts you could pitch. Then every time you have a 10-minute session, take one of those people off the list and pitch them on why, you'd be a great guest for their show. Again, simple thing you can do, reaching out, connecting with somebody, and potentially getting yourself on a podcast, which could put you in front of your target reader and, of course, help you sell more books. So that's a really good reason to do things like podcasts and guest posting. Now, if you are somebody sort of new or you just got your first book out there and you're like, well, why would anyone care about this? Just think of an angle. So think of what would make you interesting to them. What would make you a valuable guest on this podcast? A lot of times you can go by the topic of the podcast. So, for example, if the podcast topic is, horror stories or something, then you could pitch the angle of, well, I write horror stories, and I just published my first one. It's a really good story. Just sort of building up the fact that like, a lot about horror stories. Maybe share some of the stuff you've learned from their podcast. So maybe listen to a couple episodes in 10-minute chunks, and just connect with them and really be like showing them why you'd be a valuable guest on the podcast. You could have somebody reach out for you. So there are services that do outreach if you don't feel like doing it. But honestly, if you just set aside 10 minutes a day to do some outreach, you'll be surprised how fast you can actually connect with people and get yourself some publicity, which will then help you sell books. So something I think a lot of people don't realize about marketing is that it's not a direct, you do this and then you make a sale. Now, sometimes it is, but more likely that's advertising. So advertising, the goal is to sell something most of the time. So it's, we're going to show you this book and I want you to buy it. Boom. That's advertising. Marketing is not advertising. Now, advertising is a piece of marketing, but marketing is building up value. It's showing people who you are. It's showing them the value of what you have to offer. And that is marketing, and that's what causes people to buy from you. So it's sort of an indirect way, but that's the whole point, because an ad works, but it's temporary. It's not something that's going to be sustainable over the long period of time unless you have a lot of money to invest. So marketing and doing these little tiny activities every day, 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, can make the difference. And once you have momentum built, the books will just sell. And that's the whole thing. So you have to keep, you have to keep doing it. But at some point, you'll sort of reach like a tipping point where you've done a lot of marketing, and now you've got all these indirect things out there that are sending traffic to your book. So you're on these podcasts, and you did a bunch of guest posts, and, you connected with these 5 authors, and now they're doing a book promo, or, whatever. So that's the whole idea, is doing all these little things a little at a time, not overwhelming yourself, but just taking 10 minutes a day, setting it aside to say, this is going to be for a book marketing activity. Okay, so number 9 is to pitch a reviewer. So I was talking about my client, Zara Quinton. She just did some research, found a group of potential people who would review her book, and then she reached out to them one by one and asked them if they wanted a free copy to read and review. And so by doing that, she ended up getting 10 people who said yes, and now the reviews are starting to come in. And it's awesome because this is like sustained publicity for her book. So now she not only reached out to these people and got 10 yeses, but if all of them or even half of them actually go through with it, read the book, and write a review on their site, well, now this is, potentially 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people, 10 people who've been promoting her book for her, and she doesn't have to do anything besides connect with them and get them, send them the copy of the book. So it's really important to build the connections, and it takes 10 minutes. Take 10 minutes to find a bunch of sites that review the books that you write, and then take 10 minutes a day and just reach out to each person. Would you like to review my book for a free copy? Would you like to review my book for a free copy? That's it. And they might say yes, they might say no. What they say doesn't matter. What matters is you're taking the action. Because the more you take the actions, the more the universe knows you're serious about doing this. The more the universe knows that you're not in this, just to write a book and try to make a bunch of money. Like, yeah, that's what it's about, but that's the indirect thing. This is more about you are a professional author and you are somebody who is going to go all the way, and you're going to do what it takes. And that's what matters. So by doing these little actions, even 10 minutes a day, not only do you build momentum, but you build that connection with the universe to say, I'm willing to do what it takes. Send me more book sales. And honestly, like when I started focusing more on doing little things every day to start promoting my books and just, getting them out there, that's when the sales started happening. So now, I make anywhere from $500 to $1,000 a month without having to do much actual activities besides what I'm already doing, because they're just selling themselves based on the fact that I've got momentum. So I've got guest posts out there that talk about my books, and I've got blog posts on my site that talk about them, and I've got them on other people's sites, and I have podcast episodes that I've been interviewed on. So I talk about the books there, and I've been interviewed on telesummits, and I get to mention my books on those. So these are ways of me sharing the value that I have, the knowledge that I have, and what I'm here to show people, and then getting the chance to share my books on top of that, which again just builds trust with people that I'm somebody that they would actually be interested in reading and wanting to read more from. And then, of course, selling more books in, the interim. So it sort of becomes like an indirect way, but then you've got all this stuff out here. And the cool part about the digital age is everything stays out there unless they take it down, which most likely won't happen because most of the time when people have, videos and blog posts and all that stuff, it just stays out there forever. It's out there for years and years and years. So these are just people who got stuff out there now that are sending traffic to your books. And the more you do that, the more you have, and the more links, and the more people sending traffic to your books. So just keep that in mind, because a 10-minute reach out to a reviewer could cause a blog post to be up for the next 5 years that sends people to buy your book. So I did a blog post about pen names. That blog post became one of the most popular blog posts on my website one year, and it stayed there for like 2-3 years, and this was back in like 2009, 2010. Started selling that book for me. I mean, I wasn't doing anything. The blog post was there, giving them the information, and then a link to say, hey, check out this if you want more. And it was selling the book. So that's the whole idea. These 10-minute little things you do could really add up to something bigger. Okay, and then the 10th thing, let's see. Okay, yeah, so the 10th thing, and this is similar to what I mentioned in making a connection with a reader, but same thing. So reaching out to a potential reader. 10 minutes this takes, quick thing you can do, but just even starting with, and this is something I learned from when I was at Tribe Conference last year, but basically just make a list of 10 people you know who might be interested in your book. Doesn't matter if you're related to them, doesn't matter if you're friends with them, whatever. Just make a list of 10 people. Then I want you to just take 10 minutes a day to reach out to each of those people. Tell them a little bit about what you're doing, tell them about your book, and let them know where to get it if they're interested. That's it. It's really simple. And yeah, that might seem like, oh my God, but it's scary. And what if they say no? And what if they don't want it? And who cares? That's not the point. The point is, the more people you tell about your book, the more you're going to have people knowing about your book, right? So it really helps to just tell people. And so sometimes, whether that's, like I said, reaching out on Twitter, finding people who are hashtagging things related to your book that you could reach out to and say, hey, like, oh, if I saw that you read, so maybe like, for example, you could go on Twitter and look for people who hashtag Twilight as an example. So if they like Twilight, well, maybe they'll like your book about vampires and werewolves because Twilight was about that. So you could reach out to them and say, hey, I saw that you read Twilight. I love that book too. I thought it was so great. I was inspired to write, a book about a similar topic. I would love for you to check it out if you'd be interested. Again, people might say no, but it doesn't matter. It's not about getting a yes necessarily. It's about just doing the action of, I believe in my book. And I think a lot of the times the reason that people don't do the marketing is because they don't really believe enough that they can sell books. Now, this goes back to something I talked about in another video, which if you haven't checked out, be sure to scroll down my Facebook page and check it out because it's super important. And that's having an I sell books mindset. Because if you don't believe you can sell books, if you don't believe it's possible, it's never going to happen. It doesn't matter how many 10-minute activities you do. It doesn't matter how many hour-long activities you do. If you don't believe you're going to sell books, you're not going to sell books. So it's really important to have that mindset as a foundation for all these other activities that I talked about in this video. So just keep that in mind. You have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in the books that you're putting out there. And if you don't, that's maybe a reason why you're not willing to do the marketing. Now, the other thing is, again, it might be that you think, well, I have to get a yes every time. And if you don't, you become frustrated and you think it's a rejection of you. So the other thing I would recommend in any book marketing activity is that you detach yourself from the outcome. So yes, you might be going in to pitch a reviewer because you want them to say yes and you want them to write a review for you. But if you detach from that outcome, if you go, I'm just reaching out to this person and giving this opportunity to them, that's it. They might say yes, they might say no. That's not the point. You have to detach yourself from the yes and the no, because if you stay attached to it, what ends up happening is that you start thinking it's about you. You start thinking, well, oh, they're rejecting me. They don't like me. But that's not what it is. Maybe they're just really busy. Maybe they already have 50 books they're reviewing this year and they just don't feel they could read and review another one. Like, you don't know what's really going on. So just because they say no doesn't make it a no forever, and it doesn't make it a no because of you. So just keep that in mind, because it is hard. It's hard to reach out sometimes and to put yourself out there and just feel like, well, what if it doesn't come back? Or what if I don't achieve the outcome that I set out to? And again, that's just a part of it. And you have to just be detached from it and realize that this is just marketing. You're not trying to convince people they need to do something. You're just giving them an option. This is a book that I wrote. It's totally kick-ass. I think you would love it. Go check it out. If they don't, it's their loss, not yours, right? I mean, yeah, you didn't get the sale, but they weren't an ideal reader anyway. And what you want is ideal readers, because ideal readers are going to buy all your books, not just one. And that's the whole point. That's why it's important to not just build a readership and a community and don't just, try to sell books randomly because it's not enough. Like, building a community is what's going to cause you to actually have a readership who buys all of your books and not just one of them. So now if you only have one book, that's totally fine too. But I would definitely suggest keeping the book marketing in balance with getting the next book out there, because the best way to sell a book is to write another book. So if you don't already have a couple of books out there, that's a really, really good way to sell more. I think something that helps me sell a lot of books is the fact that I've got 10 of them out there. So at this point, when someone looks at one of my books, Amazon says, oh, here are some other books by the same author. So what ends up happening is either they buy that book or they go check out another one and they buy that instead, or sometimes they buy multiple. And that's really the whole point of it, is that one book sells the other. And so I always recommend, just if you don't already have 2 books out there, work on your marketing for the book you do have, but also stay balanced with getting the next book written and published, because you got to keep going. You got to keep going. You don't want to just stop producing books so you can do marketing, because you're actually stopping yourself from doing enough marketing because you need another book out there. Because again, a lot of times if someone likes a book, they go, search for the author, and then they discover, oh shoot, they don't have any other books. Well, what happens? They forget about you, or they move on to somebody else, and then they don't come back when you do have another book out there. So that's why it's important to keep in balance with the marketing and still getting more books out there. So being productive, doing your writing and getting your book out there, but then also, 10 minutes a day, doing some activities. Now I'm going to wrap up this live stream. I'm going to read through the list again, just so you know the 10 as well. If you have questions, put them in the chat box. But here are the 10-minute activities. So first one is updating your keywords on Amazon. The second is updating your description. The third is updating the book picture or the title. So if you have a book cover that maybe isn't perfect, getting a new version, trying that one out and seeing what happens with your book sales. Number 4 is to create a teaser for social media. Number 5 is to shoot a video of yourself reading a chapter or a section of the book or teaching something related to it. Number 6 is to make a connection with a reader or an author in your genre. Number 7 is to check out reviews of similar books and look for ways to improve. Number 8 is to pitch a guest post or a podcast. Number 9 is to pitch a reviewer. And number 10 is to reach out to a potential reader directly. So those are the 10 book marketing activities that you can do in 10 minutes. And again, if you do one of these a day, you could build some serious momentum that will help you sell more books. So I will be back tomorrow with another live stream to help you sell more books. And if you haven't checked out my free training yet on the 15 tactics to sell more books, you can check that out by going to jenniferblanchard.net/15tactics. Catch you next time.